As the F1 paddock rocks up into Silverstone, some huge breaking news has come out over at Jaguar, where they have confirmed that race driver Tom Fox will not race with the team next season. It has been officially confirmed that the deal that Monster Energy wanted in order to inflict a massive cash boost for the team was that they did not want Tom as part of the team if they were to partner with Jaguar. It's been confirmed that Monster were unhappy with the amount of controversial incidents that Tom has been a part of and did not feel like their brand would be able to represent Jaguar if Tom was part of the team. Jaguar had the choice between taking Tom or taking the extra cash influx to help with the team. Jaguar therefore went with the money. Key officials confirm the extra finance from Monster was just too good to turn down. They have confirmed that Sam will stay at the team, as Sam is the main man involved in this deal, as he managed to secure a partnership with Monster Energy. Tom is understood to be absolutely shocked and also upset with what Jaguar have decided to do. He felt very, very betrayed by the team, as he has now been dropped from them and needs to go and find himself a new seat for the next season. And Sam has informed that he was not informed by Monster about their plan to try and inflict cash into the team, but with that came the consequence of Tom's drive. It's a massive, massive breaking news that has just come out here, and it now confirms that Tom will not have a seat with Jaguar next season. And now the confirmation is, can Tom find himself another seat for next season? It's all going to develop now as the silly season is going to get well and truly underway, but Monster have now taken over with a cash injection over with Jaguar. It will still remain, as we know, Panasonic Jaguar Racing, but Monster Energy will have a significant influx into the team. Moving on then into the race news for this weekend, it has been officially confirmed from what we've seen in practice that Ferrari and McLaren will be taking the fight to each other in this British Grand Prix. They were the fastest in practice, with Ferrari top in FP1 and FP3, with McLaren quickest in FP2. A surprise package is Jaguar. They were very far off the pace in all of the practice sessions behind McLaren and Ferrari, and were even struggling in qualifying sims to match with Audi. In their race runs, they were able to actually compete with them. Speaking of Audi, they're confident that they can actually go ahead and beat Jaguar this race weekend. It's really not been a great race weekend for Jaguar so far. They'll be looking to recover that in the race, but Audi believe they can put themselves into the mix with Jaguar. Mercedes are unhappy with their car as well this weekend. Hamilton and Rosberg complaining about the car's lack of straight line speed and the severe amount of drag that the car produces is not helping them at all. And Porsche are hoping for a great race, as they feel that the progress that they've been making is really working well, to the point where they think that they can actually mix it with Mercedes Red Bull, and depending on how far off the pace Jaguar are, they are thinking about setting their sights on them. But are Jaguars seriously that far off the pace, or will we see something come out of the bag for both Sam and Tom? It's time for the British Grand Prix. Yo, what's going on, guys? It is Foxydude here. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the F1 journey for you guys today here on the channel. Today we're here for round number 10, which is the British Grand Prix, and obviously a track which on F1 2020 is very, very strong for the AI. So it's not going to be an easy Grand Prix for us. And as you saw in the race news program, we don't actually have the pace, and that's what practice showed. We were actually a little bit behind both Ferrari and McLaren, and even Audi to a respect. So it wasn't going to be easy, and as you can see then, on our first flying lap, it didn't go to plan, as we got a lot of understeer on the exit of Luffield, and we actually lost out there quite badly. We went and did a cool down lap and came back out again, but on the exit of Beckett's going towards Chapel, that didn't go to plan either. So we lost the back end of the car and went for a spin there. I think we just took a little bit too much curb into Beckett's, and I kind of had to take a little bit more curb because I was really struggling with that complex of corners in these really quick cars. So already struggling here to get a qualifying lap on the board, but eventually we crossed the line in P11. It's not a good lap time, but it's at least a banker lap time that we can now work with, and that's what we're aiming for. We now come across the start-finish line here for another lap, where I went ahead and just went on a straight lap from the get-go, and we qualify in P8 there. Now, as you can see here, though, on our final flying lap here, trying to see if we can improve on what we just set earlier. But you can see that we're 0.3 of a second down, which is not very good, as we now go into the last chicane here. But you can see we've gained plenty of time. But on the exit, back end slides a little bit. We remain the 0.3 down, and we stay in P8. Here we go then, it is the 10th round of the Formula 1 season out of 17, and we're here for the British Grand Prix at the classic Silverstone circuit, which has been on the calendar for God knows how long, and it's an absolutely beautiful circuit and has provided us with some absolutely sensational races. For a change though, here at the British countryside, it's actually dry. Yeah, I know, it is dry for once in the UK. As you can see, we've got the soft, medium and the hard compound tyres. Soft being about 6 cents per second a lap faster than the mediums, and then the hards being around about 1.3 seconds a lap slower than the soft compound tyres there. And as you can see from the circuit itself, then it is a 3.660 mile circuit with 2 DRS zones, one down the Wellington Straight and one down the Hangar Straight. You are not going to have any issues when it comes to overtaking around here, but making sure that you're still in the slipstream train of the guy in front of you is going to be critical, as Carlos Sainz is going to know all about that, as I believe he starts this race on the front row of the grid. So good up from Carlos Sainz then. But let's have a look at that starting grid actually. And it is Daniel Ricciardo on pole position for the second time this season, ahead of Reese then, who starts in second place then. Leclerc starts in P3 ahead of Sainz in P4, so I got it wrong. Sainz actually in P4, but Reese then in P2. George Russell and Sergio Perez, 5th and 6th for Audi, confirming McLaren versus Ferrari with Audi just a little bit behind, and then us in the Jaguar, P7 and P8. That's the best myself and Sam could do during this weekend. Hamilton qualified in 9th ahead of Pascal Wehrlein in P10 for Porsche. It's not been a good weekend so far for Mercedes, as Rosberg qualifies in 11th ahead of Verstappen in P12. And of course Verstappen, again, off the pace considering where he was at the Dutch Grand Prix last time around. We got Bottas then in P13 with Hulkenberg in P14, and then we've got Ocon qualifying just behind his teammate Bottas in 15th, and Mason Wood down in 16th place. Sebastian Vettel is 17th for Aston Martin, with Gasly in 18th place for Ford. 19th is Lando Norris, and then at the back of the grid is Noah James in P20 for the Ford cars. So the Aston Martins and the Fords mixing up with each other at the back of the field. As we now have a look then at the race strategy here at Silverstone, it's going to be a traditional one-stop strategy when I actually get the race strategy up on the screen in due time. There's no real tyre degradation, to be honest, here around Silverstone. It's quite a nice circuit in terms of tyres. You can push quite hard. There we go. Eventually we got there. We can either pit on lap 10 for the mediums, or we can pit on lap 10 for the hard compound tyres. I'm going to pit for the mediums and do a one-stop strategy. So here we go then. Let's get ready for the start of the British Grand Prix then. It is 5 red lights from 8th on the grid. What can we do then? It's lights out. Away we go here to start the British Grand Prix. It's been a beautiful start from us once again. Already getting past Sam, instantly past the Audis, and now up into 5th place now as we go through in towards the first corner. Sainz fights back at us there, and we're up into P5 then at the start of the Grand Prix. Going for a look down the inside of Sainz, but it doesn't work out. Get pinched on the apex. That was a little bit optimistic of ourselves here. Now we've got Perez trying to go around the outside here into the next complex of corners. Now down onto the straight we go here, and we're just in front of Sergio Perez, but Russell now is going to get a great slipstream here on the back of me, and he's going to have to use that down the straight. But as we break in towards Brooklands now, and you can see that we're just about in front of the Audi cars there. As we go a little bit wide now into Luffield, but it looks like the McLaren is through into the lead, with Reese in second place then, and when the other McLaren's in third and Sainz in fourth. I'm not sure which way around it is. It should be Ricciardo, but you can already see how the top 4 are beginning to pull away instantaneously at the start of this Grand Prix. Jaguar, we've been on a hot streak of 4 race wins in a row, whether that be 3-1-2 finishes that we've had, and then my win last summer in Zandvoort. But now we're already on the back foot here as we go very wide through the exit. Beckett's then had to take to the escape road and get back onto the circuit that way. Just automatically couldn't get the purchase from the car to just turn into the corner the way that I wanted, and it was such a difficult corner because I had to push so hard through Beckett's just to get the car to go in there, and compared to the speed that the others could take, not looking brilliant. But as we go now through the Vale chicane for the last time here, the first time should I say, through Club Corner, we're across the start finish line, 5th place after starting in 8th. Not too bad as George Russell looks all over the back of us now as we go through to the end of the first sector here. Russell now getting all over the back of us here. That Audi car definitely has got more performance than what we've got here in our Jaguar, but we'll have to just give it everything we got. Crucially, we are in front of Sam, who's our championship rival, so that's the main thing that we can hope for, is trying to beat Sam in this Grand Prix is going to be our main aim. As you can see, Round Russell is going to go for it here, slipstream with that Audi car and the power unit, and George Russell absolutely breezes through. I decided not to fight him too hard because I felt like with a slipstream train, maybe if I could just keep up with George Russell, he might be able to catch that to the back of the Ferraris and the McLarens. That's my hope anyway. So Now that Russell's in front of me here, I'm just going to use him and just get away with it. As Perez now has a little look in towards Cop's corner. It's not going to work though for Perez on that occasion. We go a little bit wide on the exit. Perez now is going to have a look here into Magnets and Beckett. We're going to have to go side by side through here, giving him plenty of space and warranting that. This is really close now. Perez does make the mistake through Magnets and Beckett. Fantastic overtake there from Sergio, but we'll come straight back at him now onto the Hanger Straight or the Wellington Straight, and now we're through on Sergio Perez, and we're going to go back up into 6th place in this Grand Prix, into Stowe corner around the outside on Sergio Perez. A beautiful bit of scrapping there between myself and Sergio, but we get the move done, and we're back up into 6th place. Let's have a look at that race start though and see what happens. So Ricciardo on pole position ahead of Reece then on the front row of the grid. So as they get off into the lights then, Ricciardo actually gets a very nice start here and is able to pull away quite quickly. You can see that we had a brilliant start, absolutely flew through off the line there, and we're already challenging Carlos Sainz as we go now through to the end of this first sector. I got really greedy though, trying to go down the inside of Sainz, and I just got pinched then, and that already put me on the back foot to the 2 Audi cars. Maybe if I went around the outside, I could have then, stuck myself into the slipstream, and, I maybe could have followed them for at least a lap or so, and left that gap to be a little bit closer. But Ricciardo leads the field ahead of Reece, then it's Leclerc, then it's Sainz, ourselves, and then we've got the 2 Audi cars of Perez and Russell scrapping it out then. Speaking of them, let's go on board with Sergio Perez here. He started behind George Russell initially. Now, as you can see here, there's me breezing off into the distance as we get through, and a beautiful start there. Russell gets compromised on the outside by Sainz. That forces him wide, and he loses out. We then try and go down the inside of Sainz. We back out of it. Again, shouldn't have done what I did, but we did it anyway. And then Perez here tries to have a little look at us again now, and he's got a great run here. He's using overtake mode now. Just then turns it off, then turns it back on again. But we have the outside line where we can carry the speed and momentum. Now Russell is coming on through here. As we go now through towards Brooklands here, Perez tries to have a little look down the inside on me, but it doesn't work out as I have the line and I can just close that off. Russell here is going to have the inside line. Eventually Perez backs out of it. Back onto the live feed now. We're going to see Reece here is now going to attack the McLaren of Daniel Ricciardo into Stowe corner for a change of the lead then out front. Reece then goes down the inside of Daniel Ricciardo, and these lot are going to have a nice old scrap here as McLaren and Ferrari are going to go head to head then for this British Grand Prix, as it looks like at the moment they've got the track completely to themselves for a scrap at the top 4. But Reece now leads this Grand Prix with Ricciardo dropping backwards now into pressure from Leclerc as we go through in towards the first corner, and Leclerc takes the place then. So Leclerc into second now, Ricciardo dropping to third. Sainz now looking all over the back of him here. Straight away though, you can see here that Leclerc and Reece beginning to pull away as Ricciardo and Sainz fighting in the background there as they now go through into a Stowe corner. Leclerc takes the lead in the British Grand Prix. Reece settles in behind as the 2 other cars are scrapping away of Ricciardo and Leclerc. But you can just see there that, Ricciardo and Sainz. You can just see as Ricciardo locks up. Sainz is still alongside him actually as they go in towards the Vale chicane. Now into club corner around the outside, and that's going to be Sainz's corner all day long. He'll have that one, but you can already see that there's a little bit of separation now between the top 4 cars, which is a little bit concerning, especially for Ricciardo and also for Carlos Sainz. Lap 8 of the Grand Prix now, and we've just been doing my own race, sticking in the slipstream of George Russell, but unfortunately you can just see him up ahead. We are now dropping out of DRS range here of Russell. That's going to invite Perez to have a look into Magnets and Beckett once again. We can cover that one off though, as we fly through now in towards these complex corners here, and getting very wide on the exit then, pushing as hard as we possibly can for extra pace here in this race, as Perez now has a little look. He's also followed by Sam. In fact, I've got everyone behind me, to be honest. I've got Sam behind me, I've got Perez behind me, I've got Hamilton, Rosberg, one of the Porsche cars. I think it's Verline, Hulkenberg's there as well. They're all there at the moment. It's not very good for us at the moment that we're leading such a massive train of cars, but my job today is just beat Sam, and we're doing a very nice job of that as we're back on board here with Reece now, who's going to go down the inside on Charles Leclerc into Brooklands now, and Reece is going to retake the lead, although Leclerc will hold it down the inside into Luffield. Sainz is now right onto the back of these lots, so now all of a sudden the Ferraris and the McLarens are right up with each other as we now fly on through here with Reece now. He's going to have the outside line into Copse. Leclerc will have the inside line into Copse corner. As they go through now, it's going to be Leclerc that stays in front. Sainz will just slot in right behind. Might go for it here on Reece into Magnets and Beckett. Thinks better of it though, and realizes there's a DRS zone coming up right about now, so he can just use that to his advantage. But this is absolutely beautiful racing here from these guys up front, as Reece now has that DRS to close up to the back of Leclerc. Leclerc's going to have 3 cars here with the DRS, and you can see that we're in the background of all of that as Reece goes around the outside of Stowe corner on Leclerc, but it doesn't work out actually for Reece. He'll have a little look maybe into the Vale chicane, but he decides against that now. As lap 9 of the Grand Prix, we're now trying to see if we can fend off Sergio Perez once again here as Russell begins to pull away even more now in this Grand Prix, and again getting on the grass. But crucially, what I was starting to find out is that even though I was going wide there onto the grass, I wasn't spinning or losing the back end of the car, so I might have to take a bit more liberties with that corner as Perez tries a little look again down the inside of Stowe. That invites Sam to just go straight on through, but I decide enough is enough. I'm going to get off of my soft compound tyres. I'm going on to a set of the medium compound tyres at the end of the Grand Prix. I needed to get out of the train. It was quite clear that I was just really struggling for overall pace. You know, in the first 8 laps, I was able to stick in the 1 second DRS window of George Russell, albeit I did have to use my ERS and fuel to keep up with him. That's how quick those guys were. They were just so fast that even with ERS and fuel, and I had slipstream and DRS, I still had to use more power and engine modes to keep up with them. The Jaguar car, it's a very strange one, this Jaguar. It's a brilliant car, but it just lacks a little bit of extra top-end speed. And I think that's really hurting us today, this weekend. But we come out now onto our medium compound tyres, and now that we're out of the scraps, we could just try and settle down a little bit, have a little bit of clean air. And I feel like with some clean air, we could just be a little bit more composed and find ourselves in a bit of a rhythm. Because at the moment, I've not really got myself into a rhythm in this race. Lap 12 of the Grand Prix now. And we've got a bunch of drivers coming in for their pit stops. Sam has come in for his stop onto the medium compound tyres, and crucially, the overcut has worked beautifully for Sam. So he was behind us when we came in about 3 laps ago, but Sam then wonderfully makes that work for him. So Sam now is going to take the net P6 in this Grand Prix and put himself into the fray into this Grand Prix, and that might just be the case where Sam now waves goodbye to me in this Grand Prix and shoots off into the distance, which is a little bit of a pain here. But we're back on board now with the front 4, and we're on board here with Daniel Ricciardo, who's pitted for the hard compound tyres now. He's going to go down the inside of Sainz, this is now, for second place here on the medium compound tyres. Reese has dropped down to P4 now in this race, but crucially, the McLarens have gone onto the hard tyres. Ferrari opt for the medium, so McLaren are going a different way in this Grand Prix. As you can see there, Sainz just holds on against Daniel Ricciardo, but Danny Rick will have a beautiful slipstream now going in towards turn 1, but he can't make it stick on that occasion, so he'll have to wait for another run into Stoke Corner to attack Reese now. And this, you can see there, that up front there is Charles Leclerc. So at the moment, Charles Leclerc leads this British Grand Prix, and he's got himself a gap. He's pulled away now from Ferrari and McLaren, so this is, or from his teammates, sorry, and the Ferraris. So Leclerc now is in prime position here to control the race, but crucially, I think Leclerc is also on the hard compound tyres, so that just goes to solidify maybe the hard tyre. No, he's not. He's on the medium compound tyres. So I take that back. He's not on them. As we now go into a split screen format here, you can see that we're now onto the back of Sam here on lap 15. Ricciardo is on the back of the Sainz here, going down into Brooklyn's corner. This is both on the same lap here now, as we're now trying to attack Sam here. We've got ourselves into slipstream with DRS, going towards the outside line of Brooklyn's here, and we're going to make that move stick very nicely on Sam up into 6th place. And no, on the right hand side, one of these Leclerc's got an engine failure. He's out of the British Grand Prix, and as we go through now in towards Copse Corner with them, that's out of the Grand Prix. We've now got a virtual safety car that has come out for Charles Leclerc, but that is absolute disaster for McLaren. They were leading this British Grand Prix, and they were probably looking set to potentially win it. With the likes of Sainz and Ricciardo scrapping hard, it just opened the door for Leclerc to just control his race. And again, McLaren's reliability problems hit home, but now back on board with us here. Sam tries to have a look here with some DRS now, but into Brooklands and Luffield Corner, we managed to defend against Sam as the inter-team battle between us continues onwards now in this Grand Prix. But that's heartbreaking for Charles Leclerc, man. I mean, Daniel Ricciardo DNF'd at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix when he was running in 2nd place. I'll tell you what, McLaren have been really quick this season, but they've really been unreliable, and it's especially been at the tracks where they're quick at, they've not been able to convert it. And the tracks that they're not so quick at, they just finished the race, and it's really annoying for them as we go through Maggots and Beckett's now here alongside, and Sam now is going to have a better run here with the DRS, and this time around I decided not to fight this attack on Sam. It was just absolutely pointless. I'll give it my all, but you can see Sam's already through. I had to concentrate on Perez behind, make sure I can slot in comfortably against Sergio, not lose too much time to him, as Sam now retakes what is going to be 5th place in this Grand Prix. We're down into 6th now in this race, and Sam will lead off into the distance now. And all we can do is just hope that we can stay with him, and that's all we can hope for now. As Ricciardo here has a little look on Carlos Sainz now, and he goes down the inside on Carlos Sainz as those two continue to scrap it out for the lead now of the British Grand Prix, remember. Sainz now on his medium compound tyres, going to come back at Ricciardo, but fair play to Danny Rick. Those hard compound tyres are working nicely for him, and he might just work out in his favour as Reese has begun to drop back in this stage, as Sainz now re-overtakes Ricciardo for the lead on the British Grand Prix. Lap 17 of the Grand Prix now. We're back on board with ourselves here as we're getting a great run here on Sam. We're going to use a little bit of fuel now as we go towards Stowe Corner. I wasn't close enough, so I put the car back into lean fuel mixture, trying to save the fuel now as I'm trying to look to just see if I can carve a way through lap 18 in this race. What's crucial here is myself and Sam are dropping the cars behind me, and the crucial thing for me as I go very wide again then on the exit of Beckett is I can keep up with Sam. That is the crucial thing. I can't, Sam can overtake me, but I can also overtake him. Into Stowe Corner we're going to go now, down the inside here, but Sam fends it around the outside, and he holds on to the position in P5 then. This is a great scrap between myself and Sam, trying to find a way through. Russell, crucially, as Sam locks up into the Vale chicane there, is not too far ahead actually, so I wonder if myself and Sam can catch up to George Russell in time by this race ends, but at the moment, we're too busy scrapping it out to try and get this 6th place here as we fly through. I think Pascal Wehrlein has just overtaken Sergio Perez and all that as well, so Perez going backwards in this Grand Prix. He was on the back of me, but now, unfortunately, he's having some issues here because both the Mercedes cars now fancy a run on Sergio Perez here. There's Pascal Wehrlein. He's caught right up to the back of me and Sam in all of this, so Pascal Wehrlein has got incredible pace at the moment. Here goes Hamilton now to try and go around the outside of Stowe on Sergio Perez as he goes down the inside now into the Vale chicane. Hamilton will take the position here. Sergio Perez will not be able to defend that one. And Rosberg now will try and find a way through Audi there. Lap 22 of the Grand Prix, and we're trying to breeze on through. You can see on the minimap now, Sainz has pulled away from Daniel Ricciardo. So Sainz now has managed to control this Grand Prix. Ricciardo is in second. Reese is in third, but he's getting closely caught by George Russell in the Audi. So Reese is might have an issue here because he's starting to fall back. Sam is now in 5th place in this race. We're in 6th, but under massive pressure from Wehrlein in 7th now as we're trying to hold on to the back of Sam here. Fuel in the RS is getting critical now in this stage of the Grand Prix, and we're really struggling to hold on to the back of my teammate, but we're giving it everything we've got, and we're even trying to set new personal bests, 4 1,000s off our personal best, and we've actually even beaten that because we're now into the 1980 of at lap 25 now of this British Grand Prix, flying on through. We've actually dropped Pascal Wehrlein here, as we can see, getting through Beckett's. It's a lovely exit now. We've got the DRS open this time. We should be able to get him in towards Stowe Corner. Surely we can. We're going to use everything we've got in terms of performance and engine power, but we're not close enough into Stowe Corner to go for it on Sam, but we get a nice exit through there, and now we're going to go for it. Down inside to the Vale chicane, take a different approach to attacking Sam, and we're through up into 5th place as George Russell has overtaken Reese for 3rd place in this British Grand Prix, but we're in front of Sam now, onto the final lap now of this British Grand Prix. We just have to hold on, and this is like what I said, all I need to do in this Grand Prix, because we don't have the pace to be the winners, we just need to beat Sam in this Grand Prix. At the moment, we're in prime position to do that as we go through now the first part of this lap. This is where the AIs can particularly be quite strong, but Sam is not close enough here, and we're actually low on fuel. I'm actually going to keep the car into lean fuel mixture. We've got enough in hand to hold on against Sam in this Grand Prix as we go through in towards Brooklands and Luffield Corner now, and we're going to be absolutely fine through here versus Sam. It's going to be on this section of the track now where we're going to be very, very slow and struggle against Sam now as we go through towards Stowe Corner now. Not Stowe, Cops, my bad. You can see here Sam now is trying to go for it here round the outside of Cops, but we can defend the inside line, and we're through in the head of Sam. But as we go towards Maggots and Beckett's now, Sam getting very, very close to the back of us here in this fight for P5. It's going to go down to the line here. Myself versus Sam versus Pascal Wehrlein in the Porsche car, out of absolutely nowhere in this Grand Prix, trying to shoot up in all of this. Now onto the back straight here for the last time here. Sam's got the DRS. We're going to go hyper defensive to the inside line, but crucially, Sam's not got enough. He has a look at the inside line, but we can swoop around the outside and cover that one off now. In towards the Vale chicane. Sam's going to try it though around the outside, but it's not going to work out for Sam on that occasion. We go through the last corners now into the club corner, and it's going to be 5th place then in the British Grand Prix, and there you have it. What a great race that was overall. We didn't have the pace to win the Grand Prix, but at the end of the day, it was a brilliant scrap between myself and Sam, and even Pascal Wehrlein at the end then. But as you can see, Carlos Sainz picks up his first win for Ferrari and his first victory of the season, and he also got the fastest lap of the race with a 1:19.671. I was only 0.2 of a second shy of that actually, which was a bit surprising, but it is what it is. Daniel Ricciardo finishes in 2nd place for McLaren. It's a missed opportunity again for McLaren. Leclerc was out front. He was leading quite comfortably, and unfortunately his engine failed, and Daniel Ricciardo on his hard compound tyres wasn't really as quick as Sainz on his mediums. George Russell does manage to get 3rd place and a podium at his home Grand Prix for Audi. Really impressive stuff then for George, as Reese finishes in 4th for the other Ferrari car. Again, Reese was fighting for the lead for the entirety of the first stint, just dropped off in the second stint, wasn't really comfortable, but crucially, you can see there though, the top 4 was separated by just 6.5 seconds at the end. Myself finishes in P5, and then it's Sam in 6th place Pascal Wehrlein in 7th, just 0.2 of a second separate myself and Sam and Pascal Wehrlein. Super close finish there. Then we have got Sergio Perez finishing in 8th place ahead of Rosberg and then Lewis Hamilton. Rosberg and Hamilton was separated by 3/100ths of a second. I'll tell you what, this British Grand Prix had some super close race finishes. Looking at the second half of the table though, Hulkenberg just misses out on the points in 11th place. Max Verstappen finishes in 12th ahead of Valtteri Bottas in 13th place. Vettel makes has a nice drive to finish in 14th ahead of Ocon and Gasly, 15th and 16th for Renault and Ford respectively. Lando Norris finishes his home Grand Prix in P17. It's not a great result for him. Mason Wood in P18 for the other Red Bull car. That's a bad race for Mason Wood. Noah James finishes in 19th place for Ford, and Charles Leclerc was the only man to DNF from today's race in that McLaren with that spectacular engine failure that we saw. Looking then at the Drivers' Championship, the lead has now changed. At the top of the Drivers' Championship, we are now the new championship leaders. We lead the Formula 1 World Drivers' Championship ahead of Sam by just 1 point, but this time around it's swapped because last time Sam was 1 point clear of us. Now we are 1 point clear of Sam. We're on 151 points, Sam's on 150 points. Reese is still very much in the hunt for the Drivers' Championship. He's only on 127 points, but that's still close enough for him to get involved in the Championship Challenge. And with Ferrari beating us quite easily today, they might even do it again. Daniel Ricciardo is 4th in the championship on 96 points, just 1 point clear of George Russell on 95. Carlos Sainz with that race victory propels him to 94 points. Those 3 drivers now, Ricciardo, Russell and Sainz, are getting close for company. Nico Rosberg is on 64 points ahead of his teammate Hamilton on 60 points. Charles Leclerc is now on 52 points. Unfortunately, it could have been a win. It wasn't a win, and he remains 9th in the championship. Sergio Perez is on 50 points. He fails to usurp Charles Leclerc and maintains that P10 in the Drivers' Championship. The next Grand Prix is going to be the French Grand Prix. Looking at the Constructors' Championship then, we are now on 301 points for Jaguar, still leading the way, but Ferrari do close that gap thanks to a P1 and a P4 for Ferrari and a P5 and a P6 for us, meaning that Ferrari are now on 222 points. They're still a long way behind, but they are closing. They did close the gap today. McLaren jump in front of Audi, or I believe stay in front of Audi, on 148 points. Audi on 145 points. That's getting really close now. Mercedes dropping back a little bit in that race now. They're on 124 points. Red Bull are on 48 points ahead of Renault, who are on 20 points, and Porsche picking up even more points. They're on 13 points and are catching Renault. So Porsche might just be able to usurp Renault in the championship later down the line. Ford and Aston Martin, it's looking very unlikely that they're going to be able to score points this season, but who knows. But let's go and have a look at the post-race notebook and see how the teams and drivers reacted after today's British Grand Prix. Taking a look at the post-race notebook then to see what the teams and drivers had to say after this British Grand Prix. Well, first of all, Sainz claimed his first win for Ferrari. It was a very impressive display from the Spaniard, but it did leave McLaren frustrated after yet more reliability problems hampered them today. This time, it cost Charles Leclerc a potential victory in this British Grand Prix. Red Bull were left scratching their heads after a really poor race for them today, with both drivers finishing outside the points and Mason Wood only finishing in front of Noah James and losing out to the rest of the field. Mercedes, on the other hand, though, were happy with their car and their race pace. Despite it being a very tough weekend, they felt like they got as much as they possibly could from their cars. And both McLaren drivers are now demanding answers from McLaren with regards to the car's reliability. Ever since McLaren have put in some upgrades onto their car to match the pace of the front 3 teams, they seem to be losing out, especially when they're on top. We saw Daniel Ricciardo at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix DNF when he was in 2nd place hunting down Tom in the early stages of the race. In this race now, we've seen Charles Leclerc, who was in the lead of the Grand Prix, DNF due to an engine failure. Something's not going right with that McLaren car, and they need to get on top of it because these are some massive points that they are dropping in the championship, with Audi and Mercedes very close behind them in the Constructors' Championship. But that is it for what has been a crazy great British Grand Prix. We'll see you guys next week for the French Grand Prix. Take care all. Peace.